Hey everybody, I'm Roy Cannaday.
I'm Scott.
And today we're taking a look at Karak II. This is a exploration game with fantasy, fighting monsters, and trying to defeat the Dark Lord. Let's take a look at how the game plays. All right, let's take a look at Karak II here. Everybody is going to start with their player board set up like this. They're going to choose one of the 6 different player characters here, and they all have different abilities. My character here has where they can immediately defeat an enemy that only has 1 health, and also they get to look at 2 of the exploration tiles and choose which one they want when they explore. There's ones that are like necromancers who can spend actions to bring skeletons back to life, or guys who can rally their troops and reroll dice in combat, or ones that can reroll their hero die or move across the board even faster, or ones that can make building costs even less. And then see which monsters are coming out, and then also ones that can see tiles that are coming out and have a bear die that helps them fight in combat. So all sorts of cool different abilities that you can have for your different heroes there. So you're going to choose one of those. You're going to take your hero die. You're going to have your city tile that you can use to build up here. Have all of your life points on the health side, and then have all of your buildings face down that you're going to be built here. And then you're going to have 0 on your little your glory track here. This basically shows how many units you're allowed to recruit when you're recruiting units. And then everybody also starts on the starting space here as well, and you're going to be exploring out from there. On your turn, you can move your character 1 space and then perform the action on the tile. This one says I would gain 1 wood, so I would take wood and then add it to my player board here. And then as another action, I could take tiles, or take a tile and put it out here. This character's special ability is that they actually get to draw 2 tiles and choose which one they want, which mostly just matters for which resources are on them. So let's say I want to have more food out there, so I could put the food tile here. This actually has food and wood on it, which would be great if I could harvest that, but since I'm moving into there, since this is a level 1 tile, I'm going to be drawing 1 bad guy out of the bag, and it is a skeleton with a fireball here. So then basically I will have combat. So that means I will roll my hero die, trying to get at least 1 sword. If I got 2 swords, if I got 1 sword, I would be able to defeat this skeleton. And the cool thing about this game is that we actually get to take these guys over, and we have 3 slots for spells here. This could be discarded in the future as a fireball spell to be able to add to my combat. There's a couple spaces for weapons here as well, and then a space for an amulet. So as you defeat different monsters, you're going to get different upgrades like that. So that would be my character's turn. On subsequent turns, instead of moving, I can just harvest the resources that are in that space. So I could get both of these resources, so wood and food. So say the next turn I had done that, so I had a little bit of extra wood and food. So if I had 2 wood, at one point during the game, I can spend to do the build action, which is to build my city, which the game says in the rulebook that you want to build your city where a lot of the action is happening. So I could spend a couple of those and kind of put that in the middle of everything here. And then now this is kind of like my home base where I can use to recruit my units. But I can't recruit any units from it yet until I get more resources. But there are several different types of buildings here that you can actually build. So the first one is your little warrior building, your little tent for your warriors. This allows you to build warriors for, it costs a wood and a food to build out. But then in the future you can build or pay a food to build out warriors, which will give you dice that you can use with you in combat. Warriors are pretty good. They mostly have only 1 sword on most of the sides. They do have a side with 2 swords on it, but then they also have a side that will knock the warrior out. In combat, if a unit die rolls a skull, it'll go back to the supply, so basically that warrior passes away. But if you roll a skull on your side, you will have to take damage on your character. Whenever you return back to the city of Karak, you can spend an action there to heal all of your damage, or you can spend your turn to heal 2 of your damage. If you ever get knocked all the way out, you basically have to skip your next turn and heal 3 of your damage for your full turn. So a little bit less efficient there. But yeah, you're basically going to be going around exploring more of these tiles, putting out new various bad guys to face off against, and then trying to see who you're going to beat. And different bad guys will give you different spells, which can allow you to, like this one allows you to pickpocket and steal units from your opponent. This one would allow you to have a sword. This is like a little skeleton guy. He would allow you to have a sword. There are also some of these units that will actually, when you defeat them, they will give you these soul stones, which soul stones are the point of the game. After the Dark Lord, which is the main boss in the game, is defeated, then whoever has the most soul stones will actually win. The Dark Lord's tile is shuffled in to the level 2 deck here of tiles. You can choose whether you want to explore level 1 or level 2. When you explore level 2, you always put out 2 bad guys at the same time, which will make it more hard for you. It'll make it harder for you to defeat. And if you ever lose in a combat, you will basically have to return your character to the space that it came from. And if you rolled any skulls, you would of course have to take any damage on your character. If you rolled that on your hero die, any units that rolled skulls would go away. And then basically, if you ever get to where the boss is there will be a different number of shielded guys. Say the boss's tile had come out and somebody had explored it. The Dark Lord is going to have a number of strength based on the number of players. So if you're playing 2 players, he's going to be at 10 strength for himself, and then his little guys down here are going to give him 5 more. So you would need 15 to beat him. So you have to do that much later game after you've built up your army a bit more. And I do want to note, each time you defeat an enemy, like say I defeated this level 4 enemy, if it is whatever the highest strength enemy you've beaten, your glory goes up to that amount. So if I had beaten this this little skeleton warrior riding guy here, he would not only give me the point, but he would also push my glory up to 4, which means then I could then have 4 units to ally with me, so I'd be able to have more and more dice to roll in combat against my opponents. And I will note, for the other buildings that you can build, these are always going to be back at your city. You can also build an archery range, which means that you can then have archers, which have a little bit better dice on them. They have a couple of 2s, but they are more easily to die because they have 2 skull sides on them. And then there is also a stable, which every time you do a stable, normally each turn you take 2 actions. If you have the stable, you can then take 3 actions each turn, which is pretty cool. You can also build the basically portal, which is great because anytime on your turn for an action, you can go back to your little city there, which you can only recruit units at your city, which you're going to be going out and fighting monsters, and as your units die off, you're going to want to go back to your city to do that. And then also you have the banners here, which is going to up your glory by 2. So whatever your max glory was before for the biggest monster you defeated, say I defeated that 4, I could then have a glory of 6, which means I could have 6 units to be able to build out here. And then the last thing here, this costs 3 stone and 3 food, and I could build mages. So mages are another die type here. And these basically have even more double hits on them, but still die pretty easily. But these will be great for trying to get into those high combats. So every time you do combat, you're going to roll all of your units and your hero die, and then see how many swords you get. And you hopefully don't want to roll a bunch of skulls like that. That'll kill off your units. But if you get enough swords, you can also add any swords you have from items. You could spend fireball spells to add even more swords. And then you will hopefully be able to get up to that 15 eventually to be able to take out the boss. Whenever you take out the Dark Lord, you will get 4 soul stones, and hopefully, if you're the one doing it, that will push you to have enough to actually win the game. But if another player has more soul stones than you when that happens, then they will be the winner of the game. You'll count up your soul stones. Whoever has the most wins. Another thing I do want to notice, there's a couple cool things here. There are different amulets as well, which go into your amulet slot. This one specifically is like a giant strength amulet. It'll add a giant strength die for you. There's also amulets that can increase the number of actions you get each turn. One makes it so that there's a double skull side on this, which does a couple things. For one, it'll hurt you twice, but then also it'll also inflict the plague. And this is kind of like a little bit of a catch-up mechanic. You can play with it. They say you don't have to play with younger players. If you don't want to, it's a little bit more of a take that mean sort of thing. But you'll put this on another player. They'll have to discard one of their resources, and then they'll have to go back to the main city to be able to heal to get rid of the plague. And if they don't, then they're going to end up losing resources because it infects their city, which is kind of annoying. But there's a little bit of that. Overall, it's pretty simple. You're just running around trying to explore all these different tiles. Of course, the level 1 tiles do 1 monster, level 2 tiles do 2 monsters, until you finally get to that tile that has the boss in there. So you could rush it a little bit more if you start digging into level 2. But anytime you move into one of these tiles, you're going to have to be fighting bad guys, which could knock you out, make you lose health, maybe make you lose a little bit of efficiency there. So take out the Dark Lord, get the Soul Stones, and win the game. Let's take a look at what we think. All right, so this was a kind of like entry level sort of like exploration, build up your fantasy character. You have little special abilities for different character. My character had ability where they could auto kill monsters with 1 strength, and then also could explore 2 tiles. And your guy,
he could get more resources in.
Whenever he defeated bad guys, you could pillage.
Whenever he pillaged the bad guys,
Yeah.
which you would not normally do in the game. You would only just move. You would normally have to spend like another turn doing that.
And then also you had where your warriors could be re-rolled. So that was really good for you because it saved their lives a lot of times. Whenever they'd roll skulls, you're like, nope, they're not a skull. So you're able to do that stuff. But yeah, this game is all about kind of building up your city and being able to recruit more units. And you have to go out and fight monsters to get that glory so you can build up your army. How'd you feel about like the progression of the game and how stuff built up?
Very slow.
Yeah, so
it was the turn-based.
Yeah, so basically
not my favorite.
Oh, so it just slowly builds up for you?
Yeah, you only had 2 actions per round.
Yeah,
so
but you can upgrade it if you build your city. We didn't build our stables. We probably should have built our stables in the game. That meant we could have been going a little bit more actions on our turn.
Yeah, we didn't do that, so it felt way. The rounds were way more quicker, so you couldn't do as much stuff.
On your turn, yeah.
Yeah, you would move. So.
But you did get that amulet later in the game, so you were taking 3 actions each turn.
I was running around.
You were definitely running around all over the place. But yeah, what did you think about the combat? I kind of like that you kind of like, when you defeat monsters, they turn to items and they help you in future combat.
Yeah, that reminds me of like some video games.
Yeah, where the monsters drop loot. Yeah, so that's always awesome. And then it's just interesting because you're trying to get to a point where you can actually get up to like either 15 or 13-ish to be able to defeat the big boss at the end of the game. Depending on the player count, you'll have to have more strength to beat him. But that was an interesting thing as well. I went to fight the boss, what was it, like 4 times? 3 times? I tried to defeat the boss to win the game a bunch of times and couldn't do it so that Scottie was able to like catch up.
I was running while he was doing that. I was mostly going exploring and beating monsters most of the time.
You got to the point where like the monsters weren't any match for you. You were just taking them all out because you had the level 2 weapon, another level 1 weapon, and like a whole bunch of fireball spells, right? So it's like no matter what he ran up against, he's probably going to take them out. I feel like if you had made a run for like the Dark Lord, you probably would have won the game even faster.
Yeah, but I feel like I wanted you to win.
Yeah.
Because I wanted you. It would be a close call.
Gotcha. To see if you could get there fast enough. Well, you kind of did the right play because you were able to like catch up by getting enough of the soul stones to make it where like, oh, I have to go get more soul stones or he's going to beat me. I can't end the game. And that's an interesting part about the game is the fact of like if somebody's ahead on soul stones, you don't want to end the game where you're just going to lose, you know? So I was in a situation where I had to go explore more. I couldn't fight the big boss, even though I knew where they were, even though I knew I could almost beat them, I wasn't going to have enough soul stones to be able to push it over. I do think overall that this is a good introductory style game for this sort of thing. And I haven't seen many games that are good like this for families. And I do enjoy the dice chucking and the fun of that. Even though I had plenty of times where my units died, it still made those dice rolls exciting for me. What did you think about the game? What would you rate it?
About an 8.
Gotcha. So would you be interested in playing this one again?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. There are other characters. There's a necromancer, which basically allows you to spawn skeletons. There's another character. She can move like 3 spaces every time she moves. There's all sorts of different characters you can try out. So yeah. I'm going to give it a 7.5 as well, and this is going to be kid approved from us, so I did enjoy it. And that is Karak II. Anyway, I've been Roy Cannaday.
I have been Scott Cannaday.
And we'll get to playing some more board games. See you next time. Why are you trying to be such a spaz?
I don't know. I want to fall. Oh no, I can't fall off the seat.